3 down, 1 to go. Job finished, job not finished. The OKC Thunder are 1 game away from becoming legends. Legends. And as someone who has been standing on the panel, standing on business, saying this team is really special, this dude, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is really special. I am watching a team learning literally in real time how to win basketball games on the highest stage imaginable. And today you got 2 of the most prominent, career defining, brilliant games from 2 of the game's most widely underrated stars. I mentioned this earlier. Magic Johnson once said that the definition of a superstar is a player who can sell out a rival arena. I don't think either one of these guys can sell out a rival arena right now. They're very slandered. They're very underrated. They didn't even get a Christmas game this year, if I'm not mistaken. And yet, here they are. Here they are, putting up 71 points while playing excellent defense. Who said two-way stars are dead? The OKC Thunder have 3 two-way stars. And if you are a fan of literally any other team in the league, watch out, because this is what dynasties look like. They're not supposed to be this good. They're the youngest team in the NBA. You're not supposed to win when you're this young. But when you're this young, maybe it helps that you're this mature. And it's maybe that it helps that you're this tough, because there's a lot of dog on this team. There's a lot of dog on this team. And today you saw it. You saw it with a historic performance. All right. Obviously, 71 points. J-Dub goes off for 40. Shai goes off for 31. Shai caught a lot of strays last game because he had 0 assists. Well, tonight he had 10 assists. What are they going to say now? What are they going to say now? He had 4 blocks. Sparkling. I'm glad you noticed. 4 blocks, 2 steals down late. This game was not necessarily a rout, okay? Yeah, at one point, OKC led big. Indiana did not lead at any point in this game after the first quarter. I believe they led by 3 at one point, but the rest of this game was pretty much a walk in the park. But there was a moment in the third quarter, 8 minutes to go, in the fourth quarter, where Pascal Siakam, who had a pretty decent offensive game, all things considered, the level of defense that he's facing, I'm not going to hold those 6 turnovers against him too much, although, 4 turnovers in the first 10 minutes was a little OD. But, man, Pascal Siakam comes out, bang, 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 bang. TJ McConnell carries it on, and suddenly you're in a dogfight, right? TJ McConnell and Pascal Siakam were huge in the second half, and Pascal Siakam had 11 points in the first 3.5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And you're like, here we go again, the comeback kids. And what happens? Shai, kick out, J-Dub, 3, run over. And you make mistakes, and, you get really valuable contributions. You're at home. Finally, after 2 dog fights on the road in Indiana, you are at home. And you have your role players who are all young role players mostly. They'll be a lot more comfortable. Cason Wallace hadn't hit a single 3. Now, I was up there saying Cason's going to be special in this series. Well, he had a special game. And it wasn't just the offense. It wasn't just 3 for 4 from 3, finally hitting a 3 in the series. It was those 4 steals. It was his ability at 6'2", 6'3", generously 6'3", to be able to front the post and poke the ball away from Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, play those passing lanes, be a great connector. We're talking about everything we're talking about, with the Desmond Bane trade is we value connectors. We value portable players. Cason Wallace is that archetype. Alex Caruso has a tough game, probably his worst game of this series. He goes 1 for 8, but man, he was a dog defensively. Really, don't let your offense define your entire impact. In 29 minutes, he had 2 points, but he was +8. And I tell you felt that impact for sure, right? You get some big shot making from Aaron Wiggins, who was huge in their last win. He goes 2 wins ago, he was huge, 4 for 7 from 3. That's big. You keep pace, you outshoot this Indiana team from 3, which is also huge. You limit their volume of attempts from 3, which is huge. You force a crazy number of turnovers. I'll give you a stat that blew my mind. 15 steals and 12 blocks is the first time that a team has put up those numbers in the same game in an NBA Finals game. That's what this defense is. It is absolutely historic. The way that this team just reroutes your entire process, the way that this team swallows up players at the rim, and a lot of that comes down to Chet Holmgren for sure. In the first half, Chet was enormous. Now, I've heard a lot of Chet's food at the rim. Shout out to Ox and Chill for that one. I hope they address that on the next Chill with Chill, because he is not food at the rim. And y'all will look and say, well, 4 for 15. How many times did he get fouled? I really didn't want to talk about the refs in this game. And honestly, maybe if the OKC Thunder had managed to choke this game away in the fourth quarter, I'd be sounding a little bit bitter talking about the refs. But the refs were awful in this game. So many calls that could have been called, and they're just tick. You got Pascal Siakam slapping the shit out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the perimeter. They don't care. But you hold a guy's jersey on the other end, and boom, no problem. You could punch Chet in the ribs as he's going up for a dunk. He misses the dunk, no call, no problem. But you can't breathe on Miles Turner. He's grabbing an offensive rebound. Somehow he is going to get to the line for 2 free throws. I think the OKC Thunder fans were right to boo the shit out of these referees, and you got plenty of those ref you suck stuff. But you know what? At the end of the day, it didn't matter, because the OKC Thunder were not going to lead this game up to the refs. And I really think that this game comes down to this historic defense, but it also comes down to these 2-star individuals, which is specifically Jalen Williams, J-Dub. When they both came into the league, they had to tell people who they were. Jalen Williams, and Jalen Williams. They drafted 2 Jalen Williams together. So they're like, well, I'm J Will, he's J Dub. And I think you would be forgiven for forgetting who was who for that first year. They weren't big time prospects. Neither one of them were like 5-star recruits and whatever. It's a little bit understated. It's not necessarily like you'd be forgiven to be like, oh, right, that's J Dub, that's J Will. You're not going to forget who J Dub is now. 40 points. 40 points. Go down the list of NBA history and tell me how many players have put up 40 points in the NBA Finals. It's not a long list. And this is a guy who a lot of people thought was offensively deficient. This is a guy that a lot of people thought wasn't good enough to be the co-star for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Oh, can't wait to trade J-Dub. Should trade J-Dub for Devin Booker. Should trade J-Dub for not. J-Dub ain't going nowhere. J-Dub is not going anywhere, because this dude is showing up. He is a rim protector. He is a great switch defender. He is a good point of attack defender. He is a good rebounder. He's a good connective passer. He can run a little bit of point for you. He can start at center for you. You know what I sound like I'm describing? It sounds like I'm describing Scotty Barnes. This is the value of force. Do you understand? There's 2 players in this game specifically, I think, that deserve a lot of credit for how well they played. And one of them was on the losing team, and one of them was on the winning team, J-Dub, and then TJ McConnell. Neither one of these players was highly touted coming out of high school. Neither one of these players really got any shine as a prospect. Both of these players got it out of the mud. You'll remember J-Dub went to Santa Clara and was a lottery pick, but do you remember the draft night reaction? Jalen, who? He's going top 20? So that's the narrative. Why are these guys successful? Force wins in the NBA Finals, because when the game gets physical and tightens up, it helps that you can get low and get really powerful. And both of these players are extremely powerful. They're extremely powerful players. They play through contact. They don't get off balance. J-Dub, that was a masterclass in shot making, man. That was a masterclass in shot making. He is, J-Dub is playing his Scottie Pippen role. Absolutely. I'm certainly not going to disrespect Scottie Pippen by saying J-Dub might be better. I don't think J-Dub is better. Scottie Pippen was a borderline MVP candidate. J-Dub's got a way to go to get there. He's got a ways to go to get there. But, man, this is impressive. 40 points on this stage, so much of it self-created. A lot of it shooting those threes. And it's like you compare it to like other second options in the league, and you're like, how many second options are there that can start all 5 positions like this? How many second options are there out there that can hit 3 threes in an NBA Finals game? How many of them can put up 40 points? How many of them, when your star maybe doesn't have the greatest shot making game, can take over and mimic that star role? I mean, this is so much value. And Again, Chet is going to get better, man. He's 22 years old. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get more physical. He's going to get more reps. That shot is going to get better. This team is scary as hell. They are so scary. They're so scary, man. And they're locked up. They're locked up. They're locked up for a while. And oh, by the way, they got 15th pick coming in. And you know they're going to cook with that draft pick, right? I'm not stupid, right? We all know they're going to draft someone great at 15, right? And they got 24, and they're probably going to package 15 and 24 and get up to 10 or 11 or something, and probably pick the next J-Dub. And that's just the most embarrassing thing about this is they're going to get Nikola Topic next year, and he's going to address one of their biggest needs on their roster as well. And they're probably going to find some dude from the undrafted heap, and they're going to turn him into a great player. And then you know what? Guess what? All of that being said, they got a bunch of draft picks as well. So the second they decide that they want to, turn Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein into Giannis Antetokounmpo in a year or 2 years, they can do that too. It is really special what this team does as a basketball team. I think their resilience is special. They were down 2-1 in the series. Did we remember that? That was a few days ago, right? They were down 2-1. I didn't just wake up with the Matrix. That happened. They were down 2-1, and people couldn't stop talking about how it was so stupid to pick this team. Yo, I'm not stupid to pick this team, and you were not stupid to pick this team either. They're a really good basketball team. But more so than just being a great basketball team, they're a great organization. They do things the right way. They scouted. They're a small market team. They are not even a top 100 market in the United States. Let that sink into your head. They are the smallest market, and they're the youngest team. And all I'm hearing is it'd be a really great story if Indiana won the championship. What? How the fuck is this not the story? This is not the story? International superstar Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 26 years old, wins his first championship. That's not a story. The MVP and the scoring champion wins an NBA title and a finals MVP in the same. That's not a story. The smallest market in the NBA wins a championship, their first championship ever. That's not a story. The youngest team in the NBA wins a championship. That's not a story. All I heard is, no, Indiana got to win it for it to be a story because they're the underdog. I'm rooting for the underdog. Yo, this is the whole team is fucking underdogs. Which one of these? Shai was not supposed to be this good. They said he was a role player. That's not a rags to riches story for you, huh? You got to be picked in the fucking second round like Nikola Jokic to be an underdog. What the fuck? No, this is the ultimate rags to riches stories. This is the ultimate poverty franchise that did everything by the book and beyond the book. They reinvented the game. They built through the draft. They built through smart free agency signings. They built through smart trades. They were patient. They did every single thing that every idiot fan on X refuses to do. They were patient. They practiced delayed gratification. They didn't throw all their chips in for, some aging star and traded away 6 first-round picks because they wanted to win the day. No, they wanted to win championships, and they're going to. They're going to win championships. I'm so passionate about this because I love this team. I love Sam Presti. I love Mark Daigneault. I love everything about this organization, from how they develop to how they scout. They just do things right, and they do things so beyond. I've heard so many stories about other organizations, and man, you would be so shocked to hear how other organizations deal with shit. But you hear it in everything. I talked to a dude who led me through the entire process of Chet's rehabilitation the year that he had the Liz Frank injury. And they said that they met with him every week. They kept him dialed in. And then you hear the story from Austin Reeves, where he talks about how the Knicks let him know that he was getting traded. And you see a real differentiation in how Class A, first-class organizations treat players, treat fans, treat coaches, treat themselves, treat scouting staff, and then how the big market teams work. The Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks. Embarrassments of organizations, quite frankly. If we're looking at, I think a lot of people just assume you own $1 billion team, you must know what you're doing. No. The Sacramento Kings, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. This team is running circles around the league. They're embarrassing owners and GMs. People, take notes. This is how you build a championship, because you do it the right way. You do it the right way. You future-proof the shit out of your team. They knew that positional versatility was going to be important when they started building this thing around Shai. By the way, very positionally versatile player, really good defender. They knew positional versatility, rim protection, all of these things, switchability. When they were putting these pieces together, they were not haphazardly put together. Cason Wallace fits culturally. As a person, he fits. What do you think? I was sitting there all fucking year talking about Cason Wallace. When he was ranked as the 18th pick, 19th pick in the draft, I was like, this guy right here. You know why? You know why I thought that? I listened to him. I listened to him. Y'all clown that shit, but it matters, man. You listen to this guy and you see what he's about, and he's all about elevating the five. This is a concept in OKC. Elevate my five. So every single time you get on the court, what can you do to make the other four players better? You don't have to be Tyrese Halliburton. You don't have to be generational passer. You don't have to be, Jason Kidd to do this. You could just dive on the floor. You can dive on the floor. You can call out, a switch. You can help your guy who gets beat. Every small thing that it takes to win basketball games is in the details. And this team is a master of the details. How are they able to swarm teams like this? Tyrese Halliburton had zero field goals. Jason Timpf, who is widely regarded as one of the better basketball analysts in the world, said Tyrese Halliburton should be in top 5 conversations. So if that's true, you just held a top 5 player to 0 field goals. You'll blame the injury. Sure, you'll blame the injury. He didn't get injured right away, right? I know he was nursing something. There's always something, right? When you lose in the playoffs, there's always like some injury that comes up, some injury that gets milked. Nobody's right now. You don't think Shai's hurt? You don't think J-Dub is hurt? You don't think Chet is hurt? You know how much bruising like there must be all over Chet's back right now with how much they're hitting him? These guys are all hurt. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's diving. This has been a physical fucking series. And from the perspective of the ratings and, oh my God, 2 small markets, it's the best finals I've seen in so long. Every minute is cinema. It's chess. These teams play hard. Credit to the Indiana Pacers. Yes, losers tonight, probably losers in this series. They have played a hell of a series, and they've played a hell of a way to get to this point. I have widely criticized Pascal Siakam as a playoff dropper. He has not been a playoff dropper during these playoffs. He has not been a playoff dropper in this series, okay? He is a really huge reason why they're here. I am surprised to see him score the way he is able to score in the series. His three-point progression and his ability to hit, catch, and shoot threes is a huge thing. His ability to hunt mismatches and just generally be a walking mismatch for most of the players on this other team is huge. Do I think he would be able to do this against Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics? I don't know. I have no idea. But what I do know is he's doing it here and that he's done it the entire way through. And they've had huge moments with him. And there's probably a good reason why, even though I did not agree with the decision, that he won that Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Pascal Siakam has nothing to hang his head on. He has operated like a champion should. And I think if you're a Toronto Raptor fan who's just kind of, well-adjusted, if you're maladjusted, you're probably like, oh my God, I can't believe we gave up the best player on a finals team, and that's your prerogative. You do whatever you want. But if you're well-adjusted and you just, maybe rooting for a player that was once on your team, a player that you watched go from Douala, Cameroon, all the way to the G League MVP, to the NBA Finals with your team, wave the Cameroonian flag, go through the bubble, go through the struggle, go through the ups and downs, have the fans turn on him, have the fans get him back on their back, get traded, unceremoniously through a lot of, drama and, weirdness and how he got traded. And now to see him reemerge as a star on this stage with nobody even close to the level of Kawhi Leonard carrying him to this point, I think this is a huge success. And frankly, getting to this point may actually cement his legacy as a Hall of Famer. Would I be wrong in saying that? He's not a perfect player. He's not a perfect player, but his defense has been awesome. I haven't seen this level of defense from Pascal in a really long time. Really long time. And if this version, this right here, this version of Pascal Siakam was on the Toronto Raptors 2 years ago, the space and pace Pascal Siakam, the hustle for, rebounds and offensive rebounds and block shots and just run the floor like a gazelle and not just constantly slow playing the offense in the middle of the floor and turning the ball over like a madman, which I don't think his passing is nearly good enough to be a focal point of an offense. If this version of Pascal had ever been on the Toronto Raptors in 2022, 2023, please know that at no point would I have been petitioning for him to move on. I would not. No. Even on his age, I'd be like, no, this is a really rare archetype. It's a really blendable, portable thing. But he didn't want to play off of Scotty. He didn't. And if you're watching him right now, you're probably thinking he shouldn't have had to play off Scotty, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes. We'll see where this goes in a few years. And you can tell me I'm right then. But he's been the perfect Robin, right? He's not tasked to lead the team. He's not tasked to set the marching orders. He's not tasked to design the offense. He's not tasked to close everything out. There's plenty of guys around him that can do awesome stuff. TJ McConnell, Andrew Nemhard. It's just a really fun team. It's a really fun team. When I look back on NBA history 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now, I don't think I'll ever forget this Indiana team. I don't think I will. I think they're very special for what they've accomplished. I think they're very special for what they've done in 2025. I understand right now, per odds books, they are the third projected team in the East next year behind Cleveland and New York. And shortly, I'm assuming they'll probably be behind Orlando. I don't think that's fair. I think you have to give this team credit, even if you can't understand the value of a Tyrese Halliburton, even if you can poke apart the game of, some of their complementary players, even if you don't necessarily believe in the long-term upside of Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin, I think you have to give this team credit for what they've done. Because if you're not going to give them credit for what they've done, then why are we playing the season out? If none of this matters, if all you're going to do is be like, well, Boston should have been here and it's all a fluke and this is a fluke and that's a fluke. Look, I say this as someone who picked against them in every single series, including this one. I did not respect this team. I did not fear this team. I walked into the playoffs very confidently saying, I think the Raptors would beat this team in a 7-game series with Brandon Ingram. So, mud on my face. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. And maybe I'll continue to underrate them a little bit, but I have to appreciate them. I have to appreciate what they've done. I have to appreciate Rick Carlisle's coaching. And I think he's continued to coach well. It's just unfortunate at some point, you do have to make shots. You do have to hit those 40% three-point outcomes. You have to get into the paint. You have to get stops. You have to consistently get stops. And this OKC team, they do occasionally kind of grind to a halt with their offense. They do get a little bit predictable. Their shooters do get cold. But when they're hitting like this, right? When they start hitting like this, when they go ballistic like this, when they shoot 44% from three, 14 for 32. Lou Dort, 3 for 6. Jalen Williams, J-Dub, 3 for 5. Chet Holmgren, 1 for 3, right? You get Aaron Wiggins, 4 for 7. Cason Wallace, 3 for 4. When you get that from your team and Benny the Bucket goes 1 for 4, Halliburton goes 0 for 4, Andrew Nemhard goes 0 for 2. I mean, he walked into this series shooting 48% from 3, and he goes, nah, nothing, right? You needed more. You needed more. Pascal did his job. The turnovers aside, he pretty much did his job. Tyrese Halliburton could not get open. He could not get clearance. He could not get separation. He operates on the thinnest of margins to begin with. Tyrese Halliburton has a slow release and a shaky handle. Tyrese Halliburton has a lot of holes in his game. Tyrese Halliburton in the half court is, frankly, not a very great player. And yet he has this historic track record throughout this playoffs of some of the most unpredictable shots to close the game. And it's just the weirdest shit you've ever seen. It's so unprecedented for this team to be as good as they are, given the fact that the talent is not as outstanding. I think most people walking into this playoffs would have picked a lot of point guards over Tyrese Halliburton in the Eastern Conference, including LaMelo Ball, probably. I don't know. Casual fans, I have no idea. LaMelo Ball, Trae Young, Jalen Brunson. There's a lot of point guards that you would say have more shot-making talent or more aesthetically pleasing game, but how many of them command the offense the way this guy does? How many of them consistently get 2 feet in the paint and then, make the perfect read out of that situation and get it right into the shooting pocket of the players? They were shooting like almost every player on the Indiana Pacers coming into this series was shooting like 40% from three or above. That's how they got here. They got here through shot quality and shooting efficiency and transition play and frankly, very tough nose defense. So you have to respect their defense. And I think their defense was good tonight. Like it was pretty decent. You know, in the last game and even in this game, they have accelerated pickup points. They're picking you up 94 feet. They were forcing, I don't know if y'all watched I think it was like a thinking basketball video in which they displayed that they were having them run a pick and roll in the backcourt just to get the pressure off of them. They have guards who can do this, right? They have guards who can actually do this, right? Nemhard can do this. That is a great find for them, right? Ben Shepherd can do it, right? Tyrese Halliburton, he's participated defensively. I don't think he was great defensively tonight. Aaron Nesmith can do a little bit of it, right? And then you got the rim protection of a Miles Turner, who I didn't think was great tonight, but he was all right, right? So, you know, they go with the double big lineup again, Oklahoma City Thunder, and, you know, you get 6 offensive rebounds from Isaiah Hartenstein, and that's huge. That's huge, right? Because they get 6 offensive rebounds from Ben Mathurin off the bench, which is like, who the hell saw that coming? 8 rebounds from Ben Mathurin, including 6 offensive rebounds. I mean, he was all over the place. And, you know, salute to him because he had a very, very disastrous game, last game. And I don't think anyone would have been too surprised to see him come out and completely lay an egg. And he didn't play well offensively. First person to say that. He didn't play that well offensively tonight. His shot wasn't going, but he participated. And, you know, it's these small things that really show me who you are. And frankly, if you can go out and get 6 offensive rebounds, you have my trust as a coach. If I'm a coach and your shot's not going and you participate by tipping the ball, picking up full court, getting 6 offensive rebounds, you got my respect, right? We come into training camp and you're going to be a big part of my plans. You know, they try to go with the Thomas Bryant, you know, in garbage time, but Tony Bradley gets the call. And, you know, I think he played all right. You know, he was participating in the positive lineup. I'm going to show you the game cast. And just to show you, this game really wasn't that close, but it got awfully uncomfortable right here, right? So there was that first surge in the third quarter where I got to be honest, I was like, uh-oh, is this team about to learn a very, very hard lesson in intensity? Because there was like a drop off in physicality from the first half to the second half. And I already felt like they weren't up by enough. Like I felt like they should have been up by more with the way they were playing. Like they thoroughly dominated that first half, right? It was almost a repeat of game one. And I'm like, please, Lord, do not let the second half be a repeat of game 1, too, because they kind of let their foot off the pedal. And boom, Indiana had an opening. And then boom, you know, some shots are made and shit. Now you lost, right? Nolan Bambury saying, Penn, what do you think this Pacers team can do in the offseason to fix the holes they have in games like this? That's a good question. I think if Tyrese Halliburton is your best player, nights like this are going to happen, right? And you could argue tonight he wasn't their best player. Pascal was their best player, and I think same problem. If you are comparing the scoring talent of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the playmaking talent of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and holding it up against Pascal Siakam, my guy is simply too much better than your guy. I think they have the pieces potentially to just play this out and hope that Ben Mathurin becomes the type of closer who can get you through some of these close moments. I think they'll get better. Like they're a young team as well. I think a lot, you know, and we talk about OKC's youth. OKC's so young. This Indiana team is extremely young too, right? They're extremely young. And Zigsaw Puzzle saying move on from Miles Turner. There aren't 10 centers that would be upgrades on Miles Turner right now. I got news for you. Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren ain't coming your way. So, you know, you're going to ride this out with Miles Turner. And after a finals run, you're going to pay for it too, because everyone on this team is getting paid for this finals run. I mean, they're very, very happy that they've already locked up Pascal and Tyrese to what they've locked them up to. I mean, they're both on max contracts, but everybody else is going to get paid, man. Everyone's going to get paid for what they've done in this series. I mean, Andrew Nembhard is on a very, very embarrassingly cheap deal for a starting guard who does what he does and shoots the way he shoots in the playoffs. I think Andrew Nembhard is one of the best, you know, contracts in the NBA. So maybe if, you know, you got to give something to get something, maybe Ben Mathurin plus Andrew Nembhard plus picks. I don't know if they have a lot of picks left. because they did part out with some, but maybe some future picks if you really think you're close. Maybe Devin Booker. I don't know. Is that the type of deal that Phoenix would move Devin Booker for? Or maybe you just play this out. Maybe you play this out and you just hope that Ben Mathurin really does become like a star for you. I have no idea. I'm not holding my breath on Ben Mathurin becoming a star any more than I'm holding my breath on Jonathan Kuminga becoming a star. I just don't think he processes the game that well. But last game was a really, really beautiful flash in the pan for him. And I think he played really well. And he's had some huge moments on a really big stage here. So certainly not doubting Ben Mathurin, and I remain very bullish on Jarris Walker. I mean, honestly, he was in street clothes today, so I found that kind of ironic. But long term, I believe in Jarris Walker. I know he hasn't been great so far, but he's had some moments in the G League, and he's had even some moments during the season where you definitely see the vision of what he could be as a depth piece off the bench. I don't know. It's sometimes it's so funny because a team. I'm so used to PC. Sometimes it's not a straight to PC, obviously, but I'll guarantee you, the conversation almost always devolves into one person saying, "Well, this team is ass because of X, Y, Z, and this star is ass." It's possible for two teams to play really, really well for the most part, and for one team to just win, right? Now, I'm not going to say that the Indiana Pacers played great today. They needed to slow down a little bit. They rushed themselves a little bit. Tyrese Halliburton couldn't consistently, get 2 feet in the paint. I think Pascal Siakam was a little bit sloppy with his decision making. There were so many times where Siakam could have gotten a turnover and it turns into a jump ball or a deflection. Like he was just sloppy. Like I think he wasn't reading the game properly. I mean, he kind of eased into the game by the fourth quarter, but early on, man, that was rough. And I do think that when you are the less talented team, you have no room for error. That's the cool thing, right? Like coming into this series, I thought the OKC Thunder could win like a million different ways. I really did. I didn't think the Indiana Pacers had that many paths to win this series. They needed to outshoot them. They needed to control the turnovers. And once again, there's like another game where Indiana is turning it over more than 20 times. And it's like, how? How are you turning this team over? They're so consistently good with the basketball. TJ McConnell is not an error-prone player. Andrew Nembhard is not an error-prone player. Tyrese Halliburton is like the antithesis of error-prone. Like he's one of the most cautious with the. Look at this guy who has 15 assists and zero turnovers like all the time. They don't have a lot of error-prone players. They don't have a lot of. I mean, there's Ben Mathurin and Obi Toppin who go through their occasional brain farts, but for the most part, this is not a team that plays out of control very often, and they play so fast. So that's actually very impressive that they turn the ball over as little as they do, and for them to just get hunted like this and swarmed like this, a lot of it is just. I think when it comes down to defense, one of the most underrated things about defense is discomfort, right? I need to figure out what you want to do. I need to figure out what you can do. And then I need to move you away from that. So if you like to catch it like 12 feet from the basket, I need to push you out to 13 and a half. If you like to catch it like with your right hand, I'm going to force you to catch it with your left hand. Anything I can do to disrupt your rhythm, like I need to study on film. I need to study exactly your pet move, and then I need to force you to anything else. Or I need to delay, right? So it's just like the full court pressure, right? What's that doing? It's consistently ticking the shot clock. We've seen backcourt violations for the, OKC Thunder a couple times in the series. So what you want to do is you want to delay it. So they're getting into their offense 15 seconds in. And so now when they go to their first action and it doesn't work, they got 4 seconds left on the clock. Too many teams are way too casual with ball pressure, right? So I don't know, man. It's scary times to think about what the San Antonio Spurs are building. Obviously, I'm seeing Victor Wembanyama posting all those Shaolin monk stuff from China. He's kicking boards. He's doing all sorts of shit. He's doing spiritual training. Man, I have some very high hopes for Victor Wembanyama next year. I legit think this guy can come out and win MVP next year. Like he's going to be scary good. And then you got this OKC team. And then you potentially have, maybe a juggernaut forming in Dallas. That's going to be very scary. Anthony Davis plus Derek Lively plus Kyrie Irving when he comes back plus Cooper Flag. That's scary shit. So, if the Memphis Grizzlies want to tear it down, I don't think anyone would blame them. If they want to go trade, Jaren Jackson, who's still on a $23 million deal, I don't think anyone should blame them. And if Giannis does get traded, I'm almost certain he's gonna go get traded to the West. And so, you just have the rise of these teams that are like borderline super teams on every like in every division, and it's just getting scary. Houston could be so good next year. I mean, they have so many young assets they can move. They have Alperen Şengün plus Jalen Green. Okay, neither one of those guys are moving you necessarily in franchise direction, but they're going to have some space to play around with. They just locked up Steven Adams. They got Tari and they got Bari and they got, Amen Thompson. Like you got that. That's a young team that really cooked up in the Western Conference. They were number 2 seed, right? And then you got Luka and LeBron. In Los Angeles, we're going to see like what else they put around them. Hopefully they can find a center with the mid-level exception that wants to go play in La La Land. So it's just like, and I've even talked about, teams like New Orleans, who, if they're healthy at some point this year, could be interesting. You got so much talent, man. You got so much talent. And you just look at what San Antonio is doing. You got Victor Wembanyama, plus you got possibly Dylan Harper, plus you got, Stephon Castle, plus you got De'Aaron Fox. Like, I'm looking at teams like Sacramento, and I'm like, yo, y'all need to blow it up. You need to blow it up because DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis is not cutting it in the West. And then you got a young upstart team like the Portland Trailblazers, who found, lightning in a bottle last year with Denny Avdia. Like, the Western Conference is very scary. And now I'm thinking that Phoenix Suns team, if they trade Kevin Durant for anything short of Giannis Antetokounmpo, which ain't happening, like, they're going to be a lottery team next year. So yeah, if you are the Orlando Magic, yes, congratulations. You just traded away a lottery pick because that is almost a guaranteed lottery pick. There's no chance. So, we, as Raptor fans, we often hone in on the East and we say the East is wide open. The East is wide open. Can you beat the 7th best team in the West right now? Can you beat the 9th best team in the West right now? That's what I want to know. Fuck the Boston Celtics. Like, forget about the Orlando Magic. Can you beat the Portland Trailblazers in a 7-game series? That's like legitimately what I want to know. So the arms race to the top and the arms race to the bottom is getting increasingly scary. And I feel like this league is going to just morph into a tale of haves and have-nots, right? Where the really bad teams like your Charlottes and your Washingtons are going to be like 8 to 12, 15 win teams. Your Utah Jazzes, whatever, they're going to be really, really bad. And then your good teams are all going to be like 50 plus in the West. So, health notwithstanding, it's a new NBA. A lot of talent. Dust Taker saying Raptors can beat Portland. Yeah, maybe with Brandon Ingram. Yeah, sure. But without Brandon Ingram, no, you can't. That team is really good, man. And Scoot Henderson is no, I don't think he's a bust. So he's getting better. And they're adding another top, 12 pick this year. So, like you got some powers forming, right? And then you got the Eastern Conference, you got this Indiana team, which is, legit cooking. And then you get that New York team, with another year under their belt. Like, it usually doesn't work in the first year, man. Let me just be honest. Like, that Boston Celtics team in 08 was a complete blip in the matrix and an aberration. It's not supposed to be how it goes down. So now, maybe if they'd kept Tibbs, I'd be a little bit more optimistic. Now they're going to look for a different coach. Hopefully, that coach brings in some continuity to what they were already doing. But you get a full year, full training camp after the playoff loss, whatever. And you see what you can do. If I'm the Boston Celtics, I'm tearing this shit apart. I don't have a chance against some of these teams in the West. I really don't. I don't think a healthy version of this Boston Celtics team is giving this OKC team trouble, man. I think they would swallow up. Like I say, the Indiana Pacers are so disciplined. You know who's not disciplined? Jalen Brown. He's not disciplined. He would average 8 turnovers a game against this team. So I'm just SP saying Jalen Brown will be on his Scottie Pippen chapter. Jordan's retirement is the Jason Tatum injury. How do you see Brown looking? I see him approaching this season exactly like that, like with something to prove, with a chip on his shoulder. He's always felt disrespected. I've always felt like he was very overrated, but we'll see. A lot of people give him consensus top 20, top 25. People look at you funny if you say he's not a top 25 player in the league or a top 20 player in the league. I don't think he's a top 20 player in the league. I don't. I think he's paid like a top 5 player. So shit, I don't think that's a good deal, right? We often give the Boston Celtics, benefit of the doubt. They've been a very good, well-run organization and a very smart organization that has been ahead of the trend. And, they've had a lot of success, but they've also paid a lot. They've paid a lot, man. They have paid a lot. I watched J-Dub do what he did tonight and thought to myself, what did he do that a healthy Brandon Ingram couldn't? Makes me feel better about having Ingram on our squad. Well, Brandon Ingram is nowhere close to the defender that J-Dub is. So that's one part. He's a better shot creator, though. So it's interesting. I was watching on playback. I was watching what PC was doing, and Ron said, I don't think there's 30 better offensive players than J-Dub. Respect to J-Dub. Yeah, there are. And Brandon Ingram is probably one of them. But, I don't necessarily think Brandon Ingram is not a two-way player. Not necessarily not a two-way player. I mean, he became an all-star for a reason, okay? Like, he's definitely got some value defensively. I don't think he's anywhere close to all NBA defensive level. I can think of 30 wings in very short order who are better defenders than Brandon Ingram. I can't think of 5 wings who are better defenders than J-Dub. That's the gap. That's one gap, at least. Health and durability is the other gap. But you know what? If you want my honest opinion, could the OKC Thunder win this series if you replace J-Dub with Brandon Ingram? I could see it. I think they could beat this Indiana team with Brandon Ingram. I just don't think you need Brandon Ingram because you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think Brandon Ingram has much more in common with Shai than he does with J-Dub, if you want my honest opinion. Much more in common. In fact, I think you'd have a better chance of winning this series if you replace Shai with Brandon Ingram. Now, that might be stupid. No, I take that back. Shai is just that much better than Brandon Ingram. But BI is really good. And his archetype is much more Shai than it is J-Dub, is what I'm saying. Mark Anderson saying, Rob, you're a punk. You mean you are a punk? As in, like, you're a punk? Or you are a punk because you just got banned? Okay. I don't know. I had a funny moment today on the panel where I told Goat James Kingdom that he had main character energy and an NPC brain. And I really do believe that comment is very underrated. I think that should be on a magnet somewhere. Mark Anderson, you have main character energy and an NPC brain. You too. Bro was talking about safe spaces, man. What the hell? Got a grown man who's 44 years old who needs a safe space to talk about LeBron James. Shit is weird. Believe in long arms. I do. I definitely do. I think I'm so supportive of Carter Bryant and Jacoby Walter. I think it's just a very important thing in basketball, man. And I say this as someone who doesn't have the super long arms, right? It is very, very important defensively, especially if you're talking about, playing in the gaps, playing passing lanes, defending the rim, etc., that you have those long arms. That is fair. Bobo does have long arms. So did Mo Bamba. Neither one of those guys ever figured out how to actually play basketball. But that's why the most important 6 inches are the ones between your ears. That live was a bad watch. Could have talked about the finals, Angel Reese, but no, got to talk about Zesty Jeffries. Facts. Angel Reese had a triple-double. In fact, Angel Reese is almost averaging a triple-double over the last 3 games. Almost. Not quite. It's like 11 plus rebounds, almost 6 assists, and like 13 points on 47% shooting and 73.3%. She's awesome. Do you see a future where Carter Bryant is like J-Dub? Yeah, sure. There are a lot of similarities between these two players, except Carter is better at the same age. I think what makes J-Dub so special is his physical build. Like, his physicality, he's a very unorthodox athlete. Like, he's very explosive, which Carter is also very explosive. He is very powerful, which also Carter has. He's also a good rim protector. There's a lot of similarities, especially defensively. I'm curious to see if Carter's playmaking translates the way J-Dub's has. J-Dub's a very high field player who has a lot like really great touch around the rim. I do think Carter has good touch around the rim. I also think at the same age, Carter's a much better shooter. So, you know what? Like, in a lot of ways, Carter could be better than J-Dub very easily. but he'll have to work for it. So I say very easily on my end, I'm not the one who has to be in the gym 6 hours a day. But from reports that I've heard, Carter loves being in the gym for 6 hours a day. So I have no doubt. I have very, very little doubts about Carter Bryant as a prospect. I have very few doubts about Con Knipple as a prospect. I have very few doubts about Jeremiah Fears achieving his full potential. I just have a lot of doubts about if that potential is going to be a valuable archetype, right? Honestly, can't wait to see Carter Bryant's career shapes out, even if it's not on the Raptors. Yeah, I'm curious too. I'm very curious as well. I think I've fully prepared my body for that. I've been preparing my gracious loser face for the NBA draft, right? Where because I did not have a gracious loser face when we picked Grady Dick. I literally ducked my head off screen and then became a viral, thing online. People saying like, Penn is so negative. Yeah, sure. So I gotta get my gracious loser face, which I also call my gracious Kasparis Yakuchonis Yegor Demon face on, where I don't spaz out, close the live, and smash my screen. So I just gotta, you know what? As much as I have watched these prospects, and I have watched them a lot, as much as I would like to believe that I have a really good eye for talent, I am not the Toronto Raptors. I am not Masai Ujiri. I do not have their resources, and I'm never gonna have their resources. There is a chance that I'm right and they're wrong, but it's not one that I'm willing to bet on. So if I'm wrong and they pick, somebody over Carter Bryant, obviously I'll root for Carter because I just really love him as a prospect. But I'll probably get over it and I'll just learn to root for him on another team, the same way I rooted for Brandon Ingram on another team, So, Rob, are there any players generally mocked in the top 15 that would break your gracious loser pace if the Raptors draft him? Okay, let me give you my reaction to every single player that the Raptors could possibly draft, and let's just see how it works out. So, Cooper Flag. Wow. Very happy. Dylan Harper falling to 9. Very happy about that. VJ Edgecombe being available at 9. Over Carter Bryant. I actually think they're very similar players. I just think Carter's bigger. Trey Johnson at 9. I'll slow clap it. I think he's fine. Ace Bailey at 9. You know what? This might be the one that breaks my gracious loser face. I'm gonna be honest. Because if he fell to 9, there's probably a very, very good reason why he fell to 9. And if the Raptors picked him, it's gonna be a very complicated feeling. He's gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe he's there. And fuck, I can't believe we took him. So on that end, I would really prefer we trade the pick if there's strong interest from some team behind us. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe Ace Bailey's there at 9. It's just gonna be Rudy Gay all over again, man. I see Rudy Gay all over his career. So, maybe Ace Bailey would be the guy. Con Knipple, I'll be fine with it, man. I like Con a lot. A lot. I think he's a really good player. Kaman Malawach, perfectly happy. Jeremiah Fears, perfectly happy. Noah Senge, perfectly happy. Carter Bryant, ecstatic. I will be so happy. I will breathe a sigh of relief if we draft Carter. Derek Queen, this will take a gracious loser face. This might take a pause. Yegor Demon. Oh, it might be the first day that I curse us for having Darko Rajakovic as our coach because I'll know that's 100% his pick. Nolan Traore. Okay, I get it. I see it. Cool. Thomas Sorber. I'd be fine with it. Kasparis Yakuchonis. This might be the player that breaks my mold. I'm trying to get into him, man. I'm trying. Walter Clayton, I'm out. I'm shutting down the live. Colin Murray Boyles, perfectly fine with it. Liam McNeely, this is the one right here. This guy right here. If we draft Liam McNeely, I'm done. There will be no gracious loser face. It will be straight up change.org, fire Masai Ujiri. That's the one. Liam McNeely. This is no. Fuck no. Hell no. Yeah. And he got a green room invite. So yeah, now I'm scared. Another one that would be a holy shit, Asa Newell. If we draft Asa Newell, I will not be a happy person. If we draft Rasheer Fleming, I will probably not be a happy person. Cedric Coward, I will be a little bit perturbed. Jace Richardson, I might lose my shit. Danny Wolf, I'm breaking my screen. And there's definitely another one. If we draft Hanson Yang, holy shit. Neek Clifford would be another one. Neek Clifford and I think Cedric Howard would be like, holy shit. I think Neek Clifford would be straight up like, I would be super upset. Zakarski? Oh my god. If the Raptors draft Marco Zakarski, I'm just gonna laugh for a good like 5 minutes. I don't know. I will not be able to contain myself. How about Yang at 39th? Decent value. I would go somewhere else, but I could see it. It's a flyer on a 7'2" guy who has good touch and good feel and a good passing ability for his size. I mean, whatever. If nothing else, it's great for your pocketbooks. He is one of the best Chinese prospects to come around in a while. Probably has a huge following. If he becomes anything of merit, that's huge for every player on this team. Because if y'all recall, playing with Yao Ming pretty much got you selected to the All-Star game every year. So, Hanson Yang is coming here to do wonders for Scotty Barnes' reputation in China. That'd be great. Would you trade a year off your life for Cooper Flag? Fuck no. A year of my life? No. Hell no. Now, Carter Bryant, maybe. I'm joking. Chime in. Who's the best player in the world if SGA wins Finals MVP? Jokic. Still Jokic. Do you think the Raptors would look to trade 39 and stuff to move up into a second first-round pick? Sure. Stuff could be Ochai Agbaji, could be Grady Dick, but I got to tell you, like, how high would I have to be on a player to move off of Grady Dick? I hope that my earlier live did not dissuade you into or mislead you into thinking that I wasn't really high on Grady Dick. Where I broke out, the trade valuation and stuff and where I thought the Raptors were, Grady Dick very well could be a part of the core. I just, I think his defensive concerns are real. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I don't know what it would be. Like if Colin Murray Boyles is on the board at 17, would you trade 39 plus Jonathan Mobo to get Colin Murray Boyles? I could see it. I love Jonathan Mobo, but Colin Murray Boyles better player right now. I think would I move Ochai and 39 to get up to like 20 if Thomas Sorber is falling? Yeah, 100% I would do that. There's a lot of guys in this draft that I've really liked. And that's surprising because of watching a lot of these players, you start to sort of dislike them as much because it's like, okay, so here's the thing. When you're drafting prospects, right? Or when you're scouting prospects, I think a lot of people watch highlights and it's very easy to be seduced into thinking a player is really good when you never see them miss. But when you watch full games and when you're watching like every possession play by play, you also see like 7 misses in a row. You see like 4 turnovers in a row. You see like 3 botch coverages in a row. And you're like, ugh, this guy sucks. Doesn't suck, just young. So trying to project those gaps in terms of seeing like what's correctable, what's not correctable. I look for a lot of stuff. I look for body language. I look for, how you interact with your teammates. I'm looking for a lot of the stuff that, coaches have taught me to look for throughout my life, which is the stuff that actually translates to the NBA level. Obviously, separation. Do you get separation on your shot? Are you always tightly contested? Your form, your release, your consistency on your footwork, your process of getting downhill and finding balance, even your defensive process. Do you consistently do the right thing that makes me think that you're following your team's philosophy, even if you got blown by a couple of times? It doesn't really matter. You getting a steal is sometimes just a fluke of a gamble, right? So Jokic had a better team and lost to OKC. Better team. You are grossly overrating Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and all those guys. Have you seen what happens to players after they leave Jokic? Jokic is like the anti-Kim Kardashian. Y'all realize like when dudes start dating the Kardashians, like their whole life fucking falls apart and they end up being drug addicts and like social media attention whores and like they lose passion for their entire career. Didn't Ben Simmons date a Kardashian? Didn't Devin Booker date a Kardashian? Yeah. It's like the anti Kim Kardashian. Now, I want that to be on record. Nikola Jokic is like the anti-Kardashian because he makes you better. Whatever you are, you become the best version of yourself. I swear to God, if Scotty Barnes ends up on a team with Nikola Jokic, he'd be averaging 25 points per game and like shooting 39% from three. He just makes you like really great because you don't have to think. You don't have to think. He just constantly puts you in the right position and he sucks up so much energy from the other team. And he's such a good scorer that you really are just wide open. KCP was like a 42% three-point shooter for years. What did he do in his first year without Jokic? 34%. You forget how to shoot? No, Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero are not creating looks like Nikola Jokic. This is not a fluke. Happened to Bruce Brown as well. Bruce Brown is basically washed. He's going to be a fucking minimum contract guy. So, he's going to get Christian Brown paid right now too. Christian Brown is going to be like a $25 million guy. And you have no idea what these guys look like without him. I'm sorry. Shai is not doing that for his teammates. Shai is great though. Shai is absolutely the second best player in the league. He was my vote for MVP because I do not view MVP as simply being the best player in the world. Otherwise, LeBron should have won like 14 MVPs or 13 MVPs. Jordan should have won 12 MVPs. That's not what it is. It's the guy who had the best season. Doesn't matter if you're the best player. Nikola Jokic did not have the best season because his team did not have the best season. When Michael Jordan was asked, like, who's the greatest player? What did he say? It's the stupidest question. He's like, what's the best team? 91 Bulls, 92 Bulls, 93 Bulls. It comes down to team. It comes back right down to team. The 2025 OKC Thunder are the best team. He is their best player. That, to me, is an open and shut case. When you are a top 3 player and you have that type of team success, you get MVP for me. I wasn't too mad that Karl Malone got MVP. Allegations aside. I wasn't too mad that Charles Barkley got MVP. I was pissed as fuck when Steve Nash won MVP because he wasn't a top 3 player. That's the difference. I got to live in a world where Russell Westbrook and Steve Nash have 3 combined MVPs and Gary Payton and Jason Kidd have 0. Isaiah Thomas has 0. John Stockton has 0. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Steve Nash, hell of a player. Come on, man. He's not a top 3 player. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at. That's how I gauge MVP. I take a pool of the top 3 players who functionally, were eligible for that award, and then I just pick the guy who had the best team. That's how I do it. So, who the top 3 players in this year is Giannis, Shai, and Jokic. Reverse in that order. So I think Shai is better than Giannis. That's my view. Maybe some people disagree with that. So if Giannis had a 70-win team, Giannis would be my MVP. If Jokic had a 62-win team, he would have been my MVP. Also, I'll say this. Shai could have 68 wins with the OKC Thunder. If Nikola Jokic had gotten close, so like 64, I'd put all my support behind Jokic to win MVP. But it does feel good to root for the underdog. Because Shai is not supported in Canada the way Nikola Jokic is supported in Serbia. And granted, Canada's a much bigger country than Serbia. But damn, does this country just not care about basketball? I know y'all care about basketball because you're here at nearly 1 a.m. Like this video if you care about basketball. But I find it really strange how little support and fanfare I see for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm more likely to see some idiot Toronto fan talking shit about Shai on my timeline about how he's a grifter than actually supporting this dude. Why not support this dude? What's wrong with him? He's humble. He's hardworking. He's a great teammate. He's a great player. He's fun to watch if you understand what you're looking at. He's two-way. He passes the basketball. I mean, he's functionally very efficient. He's team first. He's coachable. He's egoless. He's dramaless. I mean, I've often struggled to understand what it means to be Canadian, honestly. Moving to Canada, that was like a really, really difficult thing for me to understand. I even once asked Jean Chrétien about Canadian culture, and I kind of dumbfounded him with my question because I sort of asked him a question about Canadian identity, and he didn't have an answer for that. That was at a U of T lecture once. I always think about meeting Jean Chrétien. That was an interesting moment in my life. And I think about that and like, what does it mean to be Canadian? Like, what is Canadian values? Is it just being, into maple syrup and into hockey, or does it go beyond that? Is there an element of tolerance and kindness to it? Is it, being progressive? Is it being liberal? Is it, I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means to be Canadian. Maybe you guys know what it means. Maybe you can let me know in the comments after what it means to you to be Canadian. I'm sure a lot of you are Canadian. You probably have great answers to that question. But I got to tell you, as someone who's lived here for more than half my life now, and someone who has a Canadian passport, and someone who's been a Canadian citizen for like the last 15 years, dual citizen, but still Canadian citizen, I got to tell you, like, as a Canadian, as a new Canadian, relatively new Canadian to some of you who are born here, I got to tell you, like, Shea makes me very proud of Canada in a way that Drake does not, just so we're clear. Like, just so we are absolutely clear. No, he makes me actually proud. It's really awesome, to see on the one hand Connor McDavid, like the greatest hockey player right now, right? And he's Canadian. And then, you have a real argument that Shea is the best basketball player in the world right now. Again, Jokic wins for me, but maybe I'm biased because I'm Serbian. But yeah, like two of the key sports in North America having their signature athletes, basically their cover athletes of the year, basically being Canadian. How is that not something to be proud of? But I think beyond, the basketball accomplishments and the hustle and all the stories that I heard from people who grew up with him, and I have so many friends who could share stories about 7-year-old Shea, 9-year-old Shea, 12-year-old Shea. And I've been bombarded with these stories. Before he became a really big deal, I had a friend of mine who was in the film industry, and he's like, oh, my friend's going to the NBA, he's playing for Kentucky. If you want, I can put you in touch with him. You love basketball, and I'm sure he'd be down to talk. And I'm just like, who's your friend? He's like, oh, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Such a strange story of like how connected he is. I know some people who played rec league basketball with him, high school basketball with him, prep basketball with him, park basketball with him. So it's like you hear these stories of this kid, and it's just like he kind of just was the same. It's very quiet, very humble. Just did his work, outworked everybody. How can you not be proud of that? How can you not be proud of that? You'd be stupid not to be proud of that. You know, the best was when Toronto hosted the All-Star game last game. Drake tried to dap up Kobe, and Kobe totally ignored him. Penn is not Team Drake confirmed. Oh, that's been confirmed for a while. But shout outs to Drake for putting Toronto, putting some attention to Toronto and making Toronto cool for all the Gen Z kids. I would certainly let you know it's very. I respect people who are successful and people who work hard for what they do. I have no doubt that Drake worked very, very hard for what he did. So I have to respect the hustle and the grind. And I learned a really long time ago from one of my high school coaches, right? And shout outs, to Mr. Lewis. And he said, how you treat success in others tells me everything I need to know about you. So when you meet an Olympian and you downplay that they won their medal in a sport that you don't respect, you are showing me that you suck, that you are wired to fail in life. Because if your first response to someone else's success is to reconstruct it as failure for your own ego to, make their presence palatable, well, then you are a failure and you're wired for failure. You're not wired for success. Successful people actually admire the shit out of other successful people. Why do you think Scotty Barnes is like, gung ho over Christy St. Clair? Why do you think Scotty Barnes is, so like boyish around Giannis Antetokounmpo? Or why do you think he goes so hard at, Steph? Greatness recognizes greatness. Pending greatness specifically recognizes greatness. And so, Drake becoming, the top of the charts and, getting all these awards and all that stuff and making all the money that he's made, I can admire that. I can respect that. His music's all right. I liked Headlines. That was cool. Some of his tunes have been banging. I can't lie. I've known people who have made his music videos and stuff. I've heard some stuff about him. It's cool. Whatever. It's cool. It's just not my vibe. It's not my vibe. He's not my vibe. Artistically, he's not my vibe. Kendrick is my vibe. Artistically, Kendrick is my vibe. Tupac is my vibe. Beanie Siegel is my vibe. Nas is my vibe. So I'm not a kid, right? And I'm not saying like every single person from the 90s and the 2000s is my vibe. I like Eminem, I like KRS-One. I like a lot of rap. I grew up on rap. Drake is not my vibe as an artist. You know, a Toronto artist that I do love, The Weeknd. The Weeknd is awesome. Oh, for sure. OT87 said, "What the fuck? Penn listen to Siegel?" Yo, of course, of course. Cardinal is awesome, awesome. I used to really fuck with the Rascals. Uh, the Rascals, you know the song "We Notorious." Ain't nobody. Oh, Bone Thugs and Harmony. Crossroads, probably like my all-time much music. When that give me a shout out. Give me a shout out if you used to watch BET at lunch. Anyone else used to come home and watch the BET countdown at lunch? I remember so many songs from that time that I haven't heard in ages. Who am I thinking of? Trick Daddy, Slip Inside All Stars. I don't know why that was so big. When I was a teenager, I'm thinking Rap City, The Basement. Yes, 106 in Park. Yep, it was 106 in Park. Lupe Fiasco is cool. It's cool. Lupe's cool. I like Macklemore too. You know, I like Macklemore as well. There's a lot of artists I like, but y'all wouldn't believe me if I told you I like country music as well. I like so that's the thing. Like if I shared like my playlist with you, it would be 35, 38, probably like 42 different languages and loads of different cultures, loads of different styles, right? So I like Leahy. It's a Canadian band. They do like a lot of river dance, like a lot of instrumental stuff, like Lindsey Sterling. Shout out to Lindsey Sterling, super cool person. Lindsey Sterling, Hans Zimmer, you know, things like cinematic music, but also like EDM and like Tiesto. And I love Stromae, you know, as a French artist, but then I listen to a ton of Serbian stuff and I listen to like a lot of Serbian rap. And then I also listen to, you know, Daddy Yankee and a lot of the reggaeton stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of different influences. But then I also like really love Arabic music. Like Nancy Ajram was one of my favorites. And I also listen to a lot of Hindi songs and a lot of Farsi songs like Andy and Kuros. Andy and Kuros. You know what? This is the one. This is the one thing I never really knew how to get into opera. I don't really know how to get into it, man. Seemed like really bougie, super rich people stuff for me when I was growing up. So maybe this is something I need to find later in life for sure. Because I am not closed off to this. That is for sure. I am not closed off to this. I fallen in love with country music when I turned 30 plus. That's dope. Who's your favorite artist? I like Travis Tritt in terms of country music. I like Travis Tritt. I like Travis Tritt and Rascal Flatts are all right. You know, obviously Toby Keith. There's a lot. Started to listen to and oh wow. Okay. You have a favorite song yet? There's like two songs that I really liked from them. One is called Yada Mia and the other one is called Bia Bia. So Bia Bia in Farsi means come here, come here. So yeah, like those two songs are goaded. And I'm like very lucky because I grew up around so many multicultural people, so many different cultures, and everyone's culture fascinated me. Like literally everybody. I refuse to be like I feel like a lot of Serbs got like kind of like this reputation as being very closed off to other people's cultures. Yo, no way in hell. If you're Jamaican, I want to know about your culture. I want to know about your food. I want to know about your music. I want your CDs so I can, you know, copy them onto my Napster. I want to listen to it. I want to, you know, understand what these words mean. Is like a very deep curiosity in a lot of different cultures because everyone's sort of speaking the same language. to some extent, for sure. We got a caller, but you need to connect your mic and or camera. We got Jan Habits son. Jan, what's up?
What's up, man? I know this is about OKC stream, but I missed your earlier stream when you were talking about how the Raptors or they might give the number ninth pick. So I heard Brian Windhorst, right? And when he reported that the Raptors were in on Kevin Durant, I was excited. I was like, okay, yes, at least we're in the race, right? And then now I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of more concerned because let's say we don't get Kevin Durant, which there's a high likely chance that will happen, then it looks like Masai is not a fan of the players we have on our roster because he's openly trying to shop them around. And it seems like he's not a fan of the number ninth pick and the players that are going to be hovering around there.
Why do you believe this?
Because Brian Windhorst said, a lot of big time reporters are saying that he's trying to shop the number nine pick.
Okay, let's say it was true. Let's play this out.
Mm-hmm.
You're a Masai Ujiri. You actually don't want the number 9 pick, as you allege.
Mm-hmm.
You would leak that you're looking to trade it.
I don't think he's leaking. I think executives are knowing that Masai is shopping the number nine pick and they're leaking it for him. It doesn't mean Masai is leaking this information. It could be other executives leaking it for him. You know what I
Okay,
mean? I don't think Masai.
I hear
I'm
you.
with you.
I hear you.
Masai's a smart guy. He's not leaking this information. It's other executives.
Did we get a leak on the OG Anunoby trade before it happened?
What do you mean?
Was there like weeks and weeks of like, oh my god, they're going to trade OG Anunoby to the Knicks?
No.
So it just happened, and we were all caught off guard. We're like, wow, how'd that happen? Was there weeks and weeks of Pascal's going to the Indiana Pacers?
No, but I think those
Okay,
trades might have
hang on,
happened last minute.
hang on. Brandon Ingram. Was there weeks and weeks of Brandon Ingram narrative before we got Brandon Ingram?
There was a little bit. Yeah, there was. There was rumors. It was down to the Hawks. There was, there was some
Okay,
interest there.
sure, but that's just because the New Orleans Pelicans are a leaky as fuck organization. That's one.
Mhm.
Was there, okay, for instance, last year, was there any connection between Jacoby Walter and the Toronto Raptors pre-draft? No.
But I don't
So
think he
every
was going to
year
be there.
when they do the draft breaking, the one team they never get is Toronto. So they leak everybody's pick 3 minutes before it happens, but with Toronto, blank, crickets, they don't leak. I love this organization because they don't leak. So when you hear that they're shopping the number 9 pick, I call cap. I don't think
No,
that's true.
I don't think they're leaking. That's the thing. I don't think they're leaking it. I think other organizations that they're talking to are leaking this information. I don't
Yeah.
think it's the Raptors leaking it. I'm with you. The Raptors have never been an organization to leak any type of information. They're smart. They do things, behind the scenes and they keep it quiet. But I'm just saying I feel like I don't know. It could be, listen, as a Toronto sports fan, listen, I'm not only a Raptors fan, I'm a Blue Jays fan, so I understand how players and teams like to put our teams like on the radar saying, hey, this team is offering me more money. Oh, this team is, upping their offer. And I feel like Toronto's always that team that gets thrown in there where, they use us as bait, right, to up their offer. And I feel like, the Suns could be just saying, hey, the Raptors are willing to give the number ninth pick to up their offer. That could be true. You're right. But I don't know. I just hope not. I just want to run it by you. That's all.
No, I think they're gonna keep the number 9 pick, and they're
Hopefully.
gonna keep it until draft night.
Hmm.
And if on draft night the guy that they really, really want isn't there, and this is what I broke down in my last live, and I highly encourage you to go watch it because I broke this down pretty well.
Hmm.
And I said that if the guy that they want isn't on the board, now they have all the intel of what other teams are willing to offer and what players they're targeting.
Hmm.
Because obviously, from having discussion with you about the number 9 pick, I'm getting an idea of how you feel about your roster. So let's just say Charlotte wants the number 9 pick. Okay,
Hmm.
what are they willing to trade for it? Mark Williams. Okay,
Hmm.
now I know you want Kamal Malawach
Hmm.
because you don't have a center. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying. You got to piece this shit together. No team is coming out right and direct telling you that they're desperate to move off of Austin Reeves. No one.
Hmm.
But
No.
you can get a sense of it. You can get a sense of it. You can get a sense of who likes RJ Barrett in these trade talks. And the other thing I'll say to you is something Bobby Webster said a few years ago when they had the number 4 pick is one of the greatest things about having a really high pick is you get to talk to all the other teams. You get
Hmm.
to get them to the table. What
Hmm.
if they're just using the number 9 pick as bait? What if the Raptors are the one that are laying the bait to get people on the table so they can talk about the number 9 pick? They can ask for the world for the number 9 pick. So let's just say, okay, let's play this out. I'm a side jury. Pick a different team that's interested in the number 9 pick.
The Suns. I'll say the Suns. Or no, actually no.
No, pick a different team.
Like a team outside who's drafting outside the lottery.
Yeah, pick any team but the Suns, basically.
Magic.
Perfect. Okay, so you want the number 9 pick, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So how do you feel about Franz Wagner for the number 9 pick? And we'll throw in like an additional second and a few and a future first, and we'll give you RJ Barrett.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that deal.
Or you should get fired right away.
For
Franz Wagner should not go for the 9th overall pick. No, what I'm saying is you overvalue your 9th pick just so you can get them to the table.
I'm saying
now we can at least we have a point to start at. Like this is how any negotiation works, right? I need you. Like it's like a hot girl at the bar. It's a hot girl at the club. She's got an invitation on her fucking face. Her ass is nice. You know, maybe she dances well. So everyone's going to give her a look. Everyone's going to talk to her for 2 minutes before they realize she's vapid as shit. And then, you know, she got no personality and then they move on. That's the whole point. You got to get people to the table. That's what I'm saying. So you got the number 9 pick. You got, you know.
I would trade it for Franz Wagner, though. That's what I'm saying. I would trade it for
If you're the Orlando Magic, you would trade Franz?
I wouldn't do that deal if I'm the Magic. If I'm the Raptors,
well, you were the Magic here. That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So you got confused. You thought you were the Raptors negotiating with the Raptors.
Yeah, I would not do that deal.
Okay, yeah. So that's the whole point. Like you say the number 9 pick is available, and then you do what? You overvalue the number 9 pick, and you just say it's worth like 15 first-round picks. So now, you know, they'll be like, okay, well, you know, now that we're on the call, how do you feel about trading, you know, 15 for Ochai Agbaji? You know what I mean? So that's how I think you got to do this. And number 9 pick is good bait. It's great bait to have the conversation, but you know, I think this draft is relatively flat. I think the Raptors timed this out very well. When they started winning later in the season, everyone was panicking. I was like, they have a target. They have targets in that 7, 8, 9 range. And it might have been Carter Bryant, it might have been Noah Sengay, it might have been Kon Knipple, Kaman Malawach. And they probably just looked at that group of players and they were like, we're cool with all of them. Like we love those players. We love, you know, the guys in this range. I don't think they're trading this pick. I really don't. I think it would take a Trey Murphy or a Devin Booker to get them to trade this pick. But, you know, leave it to Brian Windhorst. There's no consequences when these guys are wrong, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, then.
All right, man.
Yeah, we're going, man.
See ya. All right. Okay. Also, like, for real, so random that you mentioned him because I was literally listening to this song today. That's crazy. That's dope. Okay. I think we've had a pretty Rob, you need to go visit Iran. Maybe not right now, but man, Iran is right at the top of my list of best surprises. Really, that is awesome. There's a lot going on in the world right now, which kind of makes me a little bit scared to go to Iran. But obviously, religion, politics, people, culture, totally different things. Huge fan of Iranian music, huge fan of Iranian people, huge fan of Iranian cinema. My Persian people are really nice. I agree. Culture is awesome, you know. So it's really unfortunate, you know, the politics divide people and culture unites people. So I tend to focus more on culture than politics for sure. Yeah. Korea's nice too. I've heard some dope shit. You know what? Korean music. I have not really gotten to Korean music, but I will tell you some of my favorite films are from South Korea. So I'm going to Seoul this summer. That's dope. I've been to Japan and I've been to India. Those are the only places in Asia. And I've been to Nepal. So I've been to 3 places in Asia. But I have never been to Korea and I've never been to China. And I don't want to really want to go to China. And I've never been to Azerbaijan and Sri Lanka. There's so many places. Bangladesh. There's so many places. Taiwan, yes. And I've also never been to Australia, although the 22 hours flight is very intimidating. Anyways, great win for the OKC Thunder. I am so fucking relieved that this team won because, you know, selfishly, obviously, selfishly, I don't want to be the guy that picked against the team that won. Obviously, we all want to be right to some extent, but also I genuinely picked OKC because I love OKC and I really am happy. And I hope that, you know, here's the final thing that I'll leave you with. I feel like a lot of people in Canada start caring about Canadian things once American people start to care about it. I don't know if I'm wrong about that or if that's just my incorrect inference or if I'm right. But it feels like American media doesn't care about Shea, so we don't care about Shea much either. And I think that power comes from authorship and autonomy and an ability to decide for yourself. I think that a lot of power is rooted in that ability to sort of make your own assertion of values. I don't need somebody to tell me that listening to Iranian music is cool. I just want to do it, so I do it. And I think that that individualized acceptance of things is very good. And so sometimes I feel like when someone becomes a really big deal in the States, then people are like, oh, that guy's Canadian. That guy's a Canadian icon. But until he becomes really huge in the States, it doesn't matter as much. I think that's a problem. So, you know, I hope that Shea feels, you know, supported by Canada. He has definitely been a huge ambassador for Canada. He's been a great participant and leader of the Canadian national team at the youth level and even at this level. And you know, it's really awesome to see him conducting himself this way on the world stage. He's so thoughtful, like with his post games. I implore you guys to watch one of those OKC Thunder post game scrums where he's just like in deep thought, contemplating what he wants to say, and he's really trying his best to give them like fair, balanced, well thought out answers. And I'm like, that's so considerate. Do you know he sits there after every one of those Thunder home games and he signs like autographs for all these people and he never responds to the trolls and you don't see him fooling around on social media and you don't see him wilding out at parties. What a beautiful example of, you know, how to be an athlete in the modern NBA. It's really awesome, man. It's really amazing. Talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Go Shea Gilgeous Alexander. This is super awesome. Peace.